You walk into a store with just $1 in your pocket. Today in 2025, that single dollar can barely buy you a candy bar, a small bottle of water, or maybe a single item from the clearance rack. You'd be lucky to leave with anything meaningful. But what if I told you that exactly 120 years ago, in 1905, that same dollar could transform your entire week? What if that single dollar bill had the power to feed your family, entertain your children, clean your home, and still leave you with change in your pocket? Welcome to a journey back in time, where we'll explore the astonishing purchasing power of $1 in 1905. A time when Theodore Roosevelt was president, the Wright brothers had just achieved powered flight 2 years earlier, and America was on the cusp of unprecedented industrial growth. This isn't just a story about money. It's a story about how dramatically our world has changed, how inflation has reshaped our economy, and how what we consider valuable has been completely redefined over the past century. Here's the mind-blowing reality. $1 in 1905 had the purchasing power equivalent to approximately $36.82 in today's money. That's right, nearly $37. But here's where it gets even more interesting. While that mathematical conversion tells us one story, the actual goods and services you could purchase with that 1905 dollar often far exceeded what even 37 can buy today. To put this in perspective, a dollar today only buys 2.716% of what it could buy back in 1905. Let that sink in for a moment. Less than 3%. That means 97% of the dollar's purchasing power has evaporated over just over a century. The average inflation rate during this period was 3.05% per year, with the dollar experiencing an actual deflation rate of 1.12% in 1905 itself, meaning prices were actually decreasing that year. To truly understand the value of a dollar in 1905, we need to paint a picture of what life was like in America during this transformative era. The United States was rapidly industrializing, transitioning from an agricultural society to an industrial powerhouse. Factories were springing up in cities, mass production was becoming the norm, and products that were once handmade luxuries were now available to the average American at affordable prices. The average wage-earning man made about $11.16 per week in 1905. That's roughly $11 for 6 full days of work. Women who were increasingly entering the workforce earned significantly less at an average of $6.17 per week. These wages might sound impossibly low by today's standards, but when you consider what that money could actually purchase, the picture becomes much clearer. Advertisements filled newspapers and magazines, promoting an ever-expanding array of consumer goods. Companies like Kellogg's, then known as the Battle Creek Toasted Corn Flake Company, were revolutionizing breakfast. Brands that would become household names were just establishing themselves. Products were marketed with bold promises and eye-catching illustrations, both in black and white and the newly popular color printing. Imagine walking into a general store in 1905 with a crisp $1 bill. The shopkeeper greets you warmly, and you begin to browse. The shelves are stocked with an abundance of goods, each with a price tag that would make modern shoppers do a double take. You're not limited to a single item or a small snack. No, with your dollar, you're about to become a savvy shopper with options that seem almost limitless by today's standards. You could walk out of that store with 10 boxes of cereal, enough to feed a family breakfast for weeks. Or perhaps you need to stock up on cleaning supplies. No problem. 30 pounds of soap could be yours for that single dollar, enough to keep your household's laundry clean for months. The variety didn't stop there. Food, clothing, entertainment, household goods, toys, and even luxury items were all within reach of this single unit of currency. In an era before credit cards, before payment plans, and before the concept of buying now and paying later, the dollar was king. It was tangible wealth that translated directly into goods and services that improved daily life. You might be wondering why any of this matters in 2025. Why should we care about what a dollar could buy 120 years ago? The answer is simple yet profound. Understanding the past helps us comprehend our present and prepare for our future. When we see how dramatically the value of money has changed, we gain crucial insights into economics, inflation, wage growth, and the true cost of living. Today's economic discussions often focus on minimum wage debates, the cost of living crisis, and whether people can afford basic necessities. By looking back at 1905, we can see both how far we've come and what we've lost. Yes, we have technologies and conveniences that people in 1905 couldn't have dreamed of. We have smartphones, internet, modern medicine, and instant global communication. But we've also experienced a dramatic erosion of purchasing power that has fundamentally changed the relationship between work, wages, and quality of life. Consider this. If someone in 1905 saved $1,000, a small fortune at the time, that money would need to grow to $36,815.45 just to maintain the same purchasing power in 2025. Without investment or interest, that $1,000 sitting in a safe would be worth a mere $27.16 in real purchasing power today. This stark reality underscores the importance of understanding inflation, investing wisely, and recognizing that simply holding on to cash is actually a losing strategy over time. In this exploration, we're going to examine 12 specific items that you could purchase with just $1 in 1905. Each item tells its own story about American life, consumer culture, manufacturing, and the economy of the early 20th century. Some of these items might surprise you, others might seem almost unbelievable, but all of them are documented facts that reveal the extraordinary purchasing power of that pre-World War I dollar. We'll discover how families fed themselves, how children played, how homes were maintained, and how people stayed informed and entertained. Each item on our list represents not just a transaction, but a window into daily life during a pivotal moment in American history. So here we go. 12 remarkable items you could purchase with just $1 in 1905. Each one tells a story of a different America, a different economy, and a fundamentally different relationship between money and value. Item number 1. 12 loaves of bread. Let's start with the most essential item of all, bread, the staff of life. In 1905, a single loaf of fresh bread cost approximately 8 to 10 cents, depending on where you lived and what type of bread you were buying. This meant that with your $1, you could walk out of a bakery with 12 full loaves of bread. Imagine that, 12 loaves. That's enough to feed a family of 5 for nearly 2 weeks, with bread at every meal. The bread of 1905 wasn't the pre-sliced plastic-wrapped product we find in supermarkets today. These were substantial loaves, often weighing a pound or more, baked fresh daily in local bakeries. The aroma of fresh bread filled neighborhood streets every morning, as bakers fired up their ovens before dawn. White bread was considered a luxury, while darker, denser loaves made from whole grains were more affordable and more common on working-class tables. Today, a decent loaf of artisan or bakery bread costs anywhere from $4 to $7. Even standard supermarket bread averages $3 to $4 per loaf. Your dollar today might buy you a quarter of a loaf if you're lucky. The contrast couldn't be more stark. Item number 2. 30 pounds of laundry soap. Cleanliness was next to godliness in 1905, and keeping a household clean required substantial amounts of soap. Fortunately, soap was remarkably affordable. You could purchase 30 pounds of laundry soap for $1, and we're talking about 30 actual pounds of solid soap, not liquid detergent or pods. This soap came in large bars or blocks that housewives would shave or grate into their washtubs and boilers. Monday was traditionally wash day in American households, and it was an all-day affair involving heating water, scrubbing clothes on washboards, wringing them by hand and hanging them to dry. The soap was harsh by today's standards, made primarily from animal fats and lye, but it was effective at cutting through the dirt and grime of daily life in an era before modern conveniences. 30 pounds of soap could last a household 6 months to a year, depending on family size. Today, a single bottle of laundry detergent, sufficient for perhaps 30 loads, costs $10 to $20, and a household might go through 1 bottle per month. The economics have completely reversed. Item number 3, 10 boxes of cornflakes. The breakfast cereal revolution was just beginning in 1905, and it was remarkably affordable. John Harvey Kellogg and his brother Will Keith Kellogg were pioneering the ready-to-eat cereal industry in Battle Creek, Michigan. A box of Kellogg's Corn Flakes cost about 10 cents, meaning your dollar could buy 10 boxes. This was revolutionary for several reasons. First, it transformed breakfast from a hot, labor-intensive meal that required cooking to something that could be prepared in minutes by simply pouring cereal and milk into a bowl. Second, it represented the new industrial food system, where products were mass-produced, packaged, and marketed directly to consumers. Third, it was actually affordable for working-class families, not just the wealthy. The cereal boxes of 1905 were simpler than today's versions, but they contained roughly the same amount of product. Today, a box of name-brand cornflakes costs between $4 and $6. Your dollar might buy you 2 cups of cereal from the bulk bins if you're shopping carefully. Once again, we see a dramatic erosion of purchasing power. Item number 4. 15 pounds of sugar was a staple in every American household, used not just for sweetening tea and coffee, but for preserving fruits, baking, and making the desserts that were such an important part of daily meals. In 1905, sugar sold for about 6 to 7 cents per pound, meaning your dollar could purchase approximately 15 pounds. This was refined white sugar, a product that would have been an incredible luxury just a century earlier, but was now affordable for ordinary families thanks to industrial-scale production and improved refining techniques. Sugar came from both sugarcane grown in Louisiana, Florida, and overseas territories, and from sugar beets grown in the northern states. 15 pounds of sugar was a substantial supply. Home cooks used it for canning and preserving fruits in the summer and fall, ensuring their families had access to fruit throughout the winter. They baked pies, cakes, and cookies. They made jams and jellies. Sugar was essential to the American diet and food culture. Today, sugar is still relatively inexpensive compared to many other foods, but a pound typically costs 50 to 75 cents in the store. Your dollar today might buy you 1.5 pounds, a tenth of what it would have bought in 1905. Item number 5. 6 cans of quality coffee. Coffee was America's beverage of choice in 1905, consumed at breakfast, dinner, and supper. A 1-pound can of good quality coffee cost about 15 to 20 cents, depending on the brand and quality. Your dollar could purchase 5 to 6 cans, which was enough coffee to last a typical family 2 to 3 months. The coffee industry in 1905 was booming. Companies like Arbuckle's, Maxwell House, and Folgers were establishing themselves as household names. Coffee was imported from Central and South America, roasted domestically, and sold in sealed cans that preserved its freshness. The iconic red Folgers can was becoming a fixture in American kitchens. Coffee wasn't just a morning pick-me-up. It was a social beverage that brought families together at the table and welcomed guests into homes. The coffee pot was always on the stove, and offering someone a cup of coffee was basic hospitality. Today, a 12-ounce bag of decent coffee costs between $8 and $15. Premium brands cost even more. Your dollar today might buy you an ounce or 2 of coffee, enough for perhaps 2 cups. Alternatively, it won't even cover the cost of a small coffee at a cafe, where prices typically start at $2 to $3. Item number 6. 25 newspapers. Information and news were surprisingly affordable in 1905. Most daily newspapers cost just 1 penny, with Sunday editions running 3 to 5 cents. Your dollar could purchase 25 regular newspapers or 20 Sunday editions. These weren't thin pamphlets either. Newspapers in 1905 were substantial publications, often running 12 to 20 pages or more, filled with news, editorials, serialized fiction, advertisements, and illustrations. Major cities had multiple competing newspapers, each with its own political leanings and editorial perspective. The Hearst and Pulitzer newspaper empires were at their peak, engaged in fierce competition for readers. For many Americans, the daily newspaper was their primary source of information about the world beyond their immediate community. It told them about national politics, international affairs, scientific discoveries, entertainment options, and local happenings. The newspaper was essential to participating in civic life and staying connected to the broader world. Today, the newspaper industry has been decimated by digital media. Those physical newspapers that remain typically cost $2 to $3 per daily edition, with Sunday papers running even more. Most people now get their news online, often for free but increasingly behind paywalls. The economics and the entire information ecosystem have been completely transformed. Item number 7. 7.5 pounds of beefsteak meat was a centerpiece of the American diet in 1905, and beef was particularly prized. For $1, you could purchase 7.5 pounds of quality beefsteak, enough meat to feed a family of 6 for multiple meals. This wasn't cheap ground beef or tough cuts, this was actual steak, the kind of meat that today costs anywhere from $8 to $15 per pound at a grocery store. The meat industry had been transformed in the late 19th century by innovations in refrigerated rail cars and industrial meat packing. Companies like Swift and Armour dominated the industry, processing cattle in massive stockyards in Chicago, Kansas City, and other rail hubs, then shipping the meat across the country. This industrial efficiency made meat more affordable and available than ever before in human history. A typical household would purchase their meat from a local butcher shop, where a skilled butcher would cut the meat to order, often offering advice on cooking methods and recipe suggestions. The relationship between families and their butcher was personal and ongoing. Butchers knew their customers by name, understood their preferences, and took pride in providing quality products. 7.5 pounds of steak represents an abundance that seems almost unimaginable by today's standards. Our family could enjoy steak for Sunday dinner, use leftovers for sandwiches, and still have enough for another substantial meal later in the week. Steak wasn't a special occasion luxury reserved for birthdays and anniversaries. It was regular food that working people could afford. Today, that same dollar might buy you a quarter pound of steak if you find a really good sale. More likely, it won't buy you any steak at all. The contrast between 1905 and 2025 is perhaps nowhere more stark than in the price of quality meat. What was once a staple of the working-class diet has become something many families reserve for special occasions or skip entirely due to cost. Item number 8. A child's tricycle or 20 boxes of cookies. For families with children, $1 opened up a world of possibilities. You could purchase a small child's tricycle for exactly $1, providing a toy that would bring years of joy and outdoor play. These tricycles were simple but sturdy, made of metal with wooden wheels, designed to withstand the rough treatment that active children would inevitably give them. The fact that a complete wheeled vehicle, a tricycle, cost the same as a loaf of bread or a newspaper subscription tells us something profound about the manufacturing economy of 1905. Mass production techniques pioneered by companies like those making bicycles and later adapted by Henry Ford for automobiles had made complex manufactured goods remarkably affordable. A tricycle represented sophisticated metalworking, assembly, and distribution, yet it was priced within reach of working-class families. Alternatively, if a family wanted to skip the large toy and focus on treats, that same dollar could purchase 20 boxes of cookies. Each box cost just 5 cents and contained enough cookies to satisfy a family's sweet tooth. Brands like Eggo-C and National Biscuit Company, which would later become Nabisco, were producing cookies in factories and packaging them for sale in stores across America. These cookies weren't the homemade variety. They were manufactured products, baked in industrial ovens, packaged in colorful boxes with appealing illustrations, and marketed through newspaper advertisements and store displays. The cookie industry represented the new consumer economy, where branded products competed for customer loyalty through quality, price, and marketing. 20 boxes of cookies would fill a pantry shelf and provide snacks for weeks or even months. Mothers could pack them in school lunches, serve them as after-dinner treats, or offer them to guests with tea or coffee. The abundance seems almost excessive by modern standards, where a single box of branded cookies typically costs $4 to $6. Today, your dollar might buy you a small handful of cookies from a bakery, or perhaps a single package of store-brand cookies on sale. The idea of purchasing 20 boxes of cookies for $1 seems like fantasy, yet it was everyday reality for Americans in 1905. Item number 9. 100 postage stamps. Communication in 1905 meant writing letters, and writing letters meant buying postage stamps. Remarkably, a first-class postage stamp cost just 1 cent. This meant your dollar could purchase 100 stamps, enough to mail 100 letters anywhere in the United States. The penny postcard and the 1-cent letter were cornerstones of American social and business life. People wrote letters constantly, to distant relatives, to friends who had moved away, to business contacts, to politicians, to newspapers. Letter writing wasn't a special occasion activity. It was how people maintained relationships and conducted business in an era before telephones became common in private homes. The Postal Service in 1905 was remarkably efficient. A letter mailed in New York City in the morning could reach Philadelphia by afternoon, and transcontinental mail traveled in just a few days. Rural free delivery was expanding, bringing mail service to farms and small towns across America. The post office was a vital institution, connecting the vast expanse of the nation and making communication accessible to everyone. 100 stamps represented a substantial supply. A family could maintain an active correspondence with relatives across the country, send greeting cards for holidays and birthdays, handle business correspondence, and still have stamps to spare. The low cost of postage democratized communication, ensuring that staying in touch wasn't a privilege of the wealthy, but a possibility for everyone. Today, a first-class postage stamp costs 73 cents. Your dollar will buy you exactly one stamp, with 27 cents change. Or to put it another way, to buy the equivalent of 100 stamps today would cost you $73. The price has increased by a factor of 73, far outpacing general inflation and representing one of the most dramatic price increases of any common consumer item. The shift from physical mail to email and text messages has been driven partly by convenience and speed, but also by cost. When sending a letter cost a penny, people sent lots of letters. When it costs nearly $1, digital alternatives become not just more convenient, but economically necessary. The transformation of value. As we examine these items, the steak, the tricycles and cookies, the postage stamps, we begin to see a pattern emerging. The dollar of 1905 could purchase abundance. Not just sufficiency, but genuine abundance. Multiple weeks of breakfast cereal, months of coffee, pounds and pounds of meat, toys for children, supplies that would last half a year, 100 acts of communication. This abundance wasn't accidental. It was the product of an economic system that was rapidly industrializing, that was applying mass production techniques to more and more products, and that was operating in an era before the massive inflation that would be triggered by 2 world wars, the end of the gold standard, and fundamental changes in monetary policy. Workers in 1905 earned what seemed like impossibly low wages, perhaps $11 or $12 per week for men, $6 or $7 for women. But when we understand what those dollars could actually purchase, we see that those wages translated into a standard of living that, while certainly not luxurious, provided for basic needs and even some comforts and pleasures. Item number 10. 5 dozen eggs. Eggs were a dietary staple in 1905, providing affordable protein, essential nutrients, and versatility in cooking. For $1, you could purchase 5 dozen eggs. That's 60 eggs. Think about that for a moment. 60 fresh eggs for a single dollar. These weren't factory-farmed eggs from massive industrial operations. In 1905, most eggs came from small local farms or even from chickens kept in urban backyards. Families would purchase eggs from local farmers, neighbors, or at the market, where vendors displayed them in crates or baskets. The eggs were often still warm from the nest, gathered that very morning. At approximately 20 cents per dozen, eggs represented one of the most economical sources of protein available. A housewife could use these eggs throughout the week for breakfast, fried, scrambled, or boiled. She could use them in baking cakes, cookies, and bread. She could make custards and puddings for dessert. She could prepare egg salad sandwiches for lunch. The versatility of eggs made them indispensable in the American kitchen. 60 eggs would last a typical family 2 to 3 weeks, even with generous daily use. During certain seasons, particularly spring when hens were most productive, eggs became even cheaper, sometimes dropping to 15 cents per dozen. Savvy homemakers would preserve surplus eggs in solutions of water glass or lime water, storing them in crocks in the cellar to use during winter, when fresh eggs were scarcer and more expensive. Today, a dozen eggs costs anywhere from $3 to $6 depending on type and quality, Organic or free-range eggs can cost even more. Your dollar today might buy you 2 or 3 eggs, not 2 or 3 dozen, but 2 or 3 individual eggs. The 60 eggs that cost $1 in 1905 would cost you $15 to $30 today, representing a price increase far beyond general inflation. Item number 11. Admission to a movie theater for 10 people. Entertainment was remarkably affordable in 1905, particularly the newest form of mass entertainment, motion pictures. For $1, you could purchase admission tickets for 10 people to attend a Nickelodeon or movie theater. That's right, movie tickets cost just 5 to 10 cents each. The motion picture industry was in its infancy in 1905. Thomas Edison and others were producing short films that lasted just a few minutes. These films were shown in storefront theaters called Nickelodeons because admission cost a nickel. The theaters were simple affairs: folding chairs or benches arranged in front of a white sheet or screen, a projector in the back, perhaps a piano player providing musical accompaniment to the silent films. The films themselves were primitive by modern standards: short comedies, scenes of everyday life, snippets of vaudeville performances, early narrative stories, and actualities showing real events and places. But for audiences in 1905, these moving pictures were magical. They offered a window into worlds beyond their own neighborhoods, a chance to see exotic locations, famous people, and entertaining stories brought to life through this miraculous new technology. For 10 cents, a person could escape into this world of entertainment for an hour or more, watching several short films back to back. For $1, an entire family or group of friends could enjoy an outing together, creating shared memories and experiences. The accessibility of this entertainment meant that moviegoing quickly became a mass pastime, not limited to the wealthy, but available to working people and immigrants who might not speak English fluently, but could understand and enjoy the visual storytelling of silent films. Compare this to today, where a single movie ticket costs $12 to $20, depending on location and whether you're seeing a standard or premium format. To take 10 people to the movies today would cost you $120 to $200, more than 100 times what it cost in 1905. Item number 12. 8 pairs of children's shoes. Our final item might be the most surprising of all. For $1 in 1905, you could purchase 8 pairs of simple children's shoes. Each pair cost approximately 12 to 13 cents. These were basic but functional shoes, made of leather with sturdy soles, designed to withstand the active play and daily wear that children would give them. Shoe manufacturing had been revolutionized in the 19th century by machines that could stitch, last and finish shoes far faster than hand cobbling. This industrial production made shoes affordable for ordinary families in a way that would have been unimaginable just a generation or two earlier. Before industrialization, shoes were expensive luxury items that people wore out completely before replacing. By 1905, even working-class children could have proper footwear. 8 pairs of children's shoes meant that a family with multiple children could outfit all of them with proper footwear, or a single child could have shoes that fit as they grew throughout the year. Growing children needed new shoes frequently as their feet expanded, and at 12 cents per pair, replacing shoes as needed was economically feasible for most families. The shoes sold for this price were simple styles: black or brown leather boots that laced up the ankle for boys, simple Mary Jane styles for girls. They weren't fancy, but they protected children's feet from rough streets, cold weather, and the hazards of daily life in an era before modern safety regulations and paved sidewalks were universal. Today, a single pair of decent children's shoes costs $25 to $60. Budget options at discount stores might start at $15 per pair. To purchase 8 pairs of children's shoes today would cost you $200 to $400. The $1 that bought 8 pairs in 1905 won't even buy a shoelace today. The final reflection. So there you have it. 12 items that could be purchased with a single dollar in 1905. 12 loaves of bread, 30 pounds of soap, 10 boxes of cornflakes, 15 pounds of sugar, 6 cans of coffee, 25 newspapers, 7.5 pounds of steak, a tricycle or 20 boxes of cookies, 100 postage stamps, 5 dozen eggs, movie admission for 10 people, 8 pairs of children's shoes. Each item tells a story of abundance, accessibility, and affordability that seems almost impossible from our perspective in 2025. That single dollar could feed a family, clothe children, provide entertainment, enable communication, maintain a household, and still leave change in your pocket. What happened between 1905 and 2025? The simple answer is inflation, a persistent increase in prices and corresponding decrease in the purchasing power of money. The dollar has lost more than 97% of its value over these 120 years. But the story is more complex than simple inflation numbers suggest. We've experienced 2 world wars, the Great Depression, the abandonment of the gold standard, massive government deficit spending, changes in monetary policy, globalization, technological revolution, and fundamental restructuring of the economy. Wages have increased dramatically in nominal terms, even if purchasing power hasn't kept pace. We have access to goods and services that didn't exist in 1905, from smartphones to modern medicine to global travel. But we've also lost something. We've lost the experience of a dollar having real substantial purchasing power. We've lost the ability to save small amounts of money and watch them accumulate into meaningful wealth through purchasing power alone. We've been forced into becoming investors and asset holders to preserve wealth rather than savers of currency. The dollar of 1905 was powerful. It was respected. It could change your day, your week, your life. The dollar of 2025 is a shadow of what it once was, capable of buying almost nothing on its own, useful only in accumulation. This journey through time reminds us that money is not a constant. Its value shifts, changes, erodes. Understanding this history helps us make better decisions about our own money today, decisions about saving, investing, spending, and planning for a future where today's dollar will inevitably be worth far less than it is right now.